I finished reading 9 Rip. I got it because I thought the cover was pretty cool. Alongside that, the opening song is also a banger. I confused Pluto with Jupiter, a band I was into a long time ago, and I was wondering when they changed their music directions, like what happened. It's like, oh yeah, they're not the same people. It started out really strong to the point I thought this would be my favorite title of the year, but it never hit the same peak of the first 2 routes. The problem is that there's too many writers. Apparently there's like 10 of them, and outside of one route, you can just pick whatever route you want to go to first. That then leads to each route having a bit of repetition where it's constantly going back to the main character not knowing what she wants to do with her life. There are minor variations where sometimes she focuses more on just trying to avoid what her mom expects of her, and to sometimes teetering between actually maybe going for that and eventually deciding against it, to sometimes just trying to figure out how to get out of this predicament and wondering about her career choice on the sides, like holy shit, I think me almost dying takes precedence, right? That kind of thing. But it's never not around, it's something you're forced to read about in each route. And it's not like each route only had like one scenario writer, outside of like the director being in all of them. Sometimes there's one person, sometimes there's like 4. I have to check it again, but I think each route has like a different amount. So it goes from like 2, 3, 4, and 5, I believe. I swapped between having the subtitle to be too many writers or like please have an enforced order. I don't care about the main character's troubles. It's something too trivial to carry for 9 routes. It could have worked if each part had its own specific main character around like different dilemmas, but they want to keep the same girl to make the finale make sense. It could have been a forced route order where the comment sections of the previous routes are used as the foundation for the next couple of routes, and it technically makes sense with the idea of giving more obstacles to go through. Sure, he'd be like a total asshole, but it'd also be funny. It'd also make the connections between the characters to be more streamlined as well. Honestly, some of the characters are fine in like whatever order, but other ones feel like it fuck up the things of like, oh, if this character was introduced way later in the story, it's like, oh, I fucked it up. I'll go through that later. I'm not sure what the conditions are to unlock the last route. It could have been that you need to complete all the routes or just like a specific 3 where plot points like intermingle. And even that's kind of generous where the 2 required arcs I know about aren't really necessary. One or the other would have been fine. Just going through one route does make it seem like it's a more plot-oriented title, but it's not. I just got bamboozled with how trippy some of the art is. But, well, not as much as like the actual CGs or the environments, but all of the different menus or like the chapter scenarios, or not the scenarios, but like the sections for when it segues from chapter 1 to 2 and 2 to 3. Like, they're all pretty cool. There's also this whole like sanity meter that's actually kind of hard to fill the whole way through. It progressively gets more noisy and I found it pretty cool. I forgot if it actually does anything outside of like one route where I think you had to max it out to start the route. Considering you're like in hell in that scenario, I'll talk about that later. Like the start wouldn't make much sense unless the character was always like a little crazy at this point. The rest of the time maxing it out just leads to a bad ending, and I think all it does is like it removes the option to pick a different like choice to avoid it normally, because otherwise you just game over. And since I already mentioned like hell at this point, the title is split into like 4 main scenarios where each contains 2 routes. Misa is the main character throughout, but the location and what she has to do is different. It's not really a spoiler since it gets covered in like the first 20 minutes of whatever route you actually go into. School Ghost Stories has her like spirited away into an alternate version of her school where she gets to interact with different spirits and the classic like 7 mysteries or 7 wonders or whatever it is trope, right? Basically trying to figure out how to leave this dimension. There's a couple of characters that interconnect between the locations, but the mains here are Hibiki and Kureha. Hibiki is the piss baby of the group. He's kind of like the scared antisocial turtle type, but overall it's pretty funny. He probably has the most connections of the cast, which is ironically funny. He's one of the 7 mysteries or wonders, but also one of the victims from this massacre ages ago before the place became a school. He resides in this mirror that's pretty much an extra dimension again. So hers is from the living, the red one is like the in-between that she's in now, and then there's this blue one that he's in that nobody except him can go into unless he like accepts it or whatever. He kind of goes back and forth between like the pussy and the psychopath. It's really funny because of that. Kureha is kind of a straight man. I can see if people will call him boring, but this also makes it so the plot takes focus, and I'm generally a fan of that. He's also one of the 7 mysteries or wonders, but doesn't remember his past. It's kind of cliche. He's trying to figure out what he himself has to do and is compelled to help Misa due to like previous interactions where she couldn't see him. It's kind of how like he appreciates that she was already kind and empathetic and like open-minded to matters she doesn't even know anything about, and he's like, oh, she's pretty cool. This is also where all the horror stays in. It's not even scary, but the tone is there. Sure, a part here and there of other routes can be still considered like, oh, this still is like a horror genre thing, but the tone is completely fucked. These 2 are what I was expecting out of 9 Rip. Hibiki is interesting, and one of the Kureha endings was amazing in terms of flow and the unexpected impact in the end. It just never gets to this level throughout the rest of the routes. And this issue gets a lot worse considering this is the first like 20% of the title. Think of it like Tokyo Babel, where the best scene was the first scene in the start. While there's no like enforced order, either of these are the best to start with since it branches into a couple of different parts. There's even an ending where it shows the rest of the characters in this whole like VN except by maybe 2. Hibiki knows a few and Kureha knows one of the characters in the next section. On the other hand, you can also do like the comment of all 4 routes at first and then come back and do all the routes later on. And maybe it becomes like a more enjoyable experience that way. Apparently this section had like 4 writers. Some started with this title in terms of like VNs, but the popular ones wrote for like Hakoki. I won't be mentioning the voice actors much. All of them are pretty popular like in anime from what I can tell. Anyways, the next place is called Urban Legends. The 2 routes are Sena and Koyo. This time you're not really spirited away, you're just a spirit. Think of it like the first arc of Yu Yu Hakusho if you've seen that. And so it's all about like Koyo trying to make Misa figure out that she's not what she used to be. Basically, she still thinks she's alive and tries to talk to the rest of the family and friends, and she's like, what the fuck, people not hearing me? They're just ignoring me. It's like, no, you're a spirit. Koyo tries to make other spirits pass on and calls like the people that are grieving like a last chance to hear them, like talk to them for whoever died. Sen is a weird one where he has a mental block about all of it, so he forgets he's a spirit the following day. Well, it's more that he forgets anything after the day he went to the city, so he forgets what new people he met or anything, and obviously that he died and all that, so it's like it just keeps a reset. So it's like, it's not exactly that, but it's what it is. It's kind of like 50 First Dates from Adam Sandler if you've seen that movie. Neither of them are great. Sena kind of feels like a short key title until like halfway through where it's a genre shift. Personally, I think it was hilarious and it's also more aligned to what 9-Rip is about, but I can also understand if people ended up hating this route because of it. I thought I would like Koyo and his route, but it didn't really land. He's kind of like Kureha with some pepper. He's not as plain, but you don't really see it that often either. His route is more of this lady who keeps following him, and it's not like these routes are badly written, it's just a couple steps down compared to the first 2. If I read this one first, I'm like, hey, this is fine. But since, you know, I've read freaking school stories, like, I was like, why, that's a steep decline. It doesn't help that the character theme track for these 2 are tonal whiplash. Holy shit, we finally got away from like the crazy lady. Koyo starts talking about like, oh, what's happening, what she's about, and like his club music theme starts playing. Like the track kind of relates back to his character, I guess, because he's like a streamer or something, but it's constantly fucking up the mood. I don't think I talked about the character themes for Kureha and Hibiki. They work great. They're on like a low BPM and it melds well with the tone of the plot. Sena is like some boy band music and Koyo's just club music. Is like, what the fuck is this? Out of all the routes, I'd say this is probably the 2 that could be cut from the title, and that's kind of bad because there's another section that's like, why are you here as well? But alright. Not that they're bad again, I think either title would have been fine as like standalone, just not as a compilation for me. If you treat it more like a moe title and you just don't care about the cohesion, then it's fine. Funny enough, there's only one writer in this one, outside of like Amon, which is the director, right? And it's someone that touched Color Malice and Code Realize. Like, I assume this would be better than what it is, so this kind of sucks because of that. You'd expect more, and it's like, it's fine. The next section is called Other Realm. Misa gets spirited away to hell where she tries to go back while getting like the help from like the Exorcist. But there's also this demon that's been trying to get her soul since she was little but couldn't. But now that she's in reach, like holy shit, right? Too bad his character theme also thinks he's in the club and it kills the tone again. And while I'm on that note, his voice actor is the one that handled Young from Fiore Fiore, and it was the only thing I knew before starting this title, and I didn't get what I expected like 80% of the time. He's usually trolling, and the only times his deeper voice comes out is when he's fed up with their shit. So there's scenes where I'm just like, boo, tomato, bring Yang back. It's like, what the fuck, what is this kid? I don't care. So I was basically that asshole in the concert, like, boo, play classic songs, I don't care about these new ones. Anyways, the demon is Minami and the exorcist Seiya. Seiya's a goober throughout the plot and probably ended up being my favorite character. I think Koyo actually got a little fucked over because they kind of shared the same space but with like different degrees. They had to tone Koyo down, otherwise it'd be just 2 Seiyas. Overall, he's pretty hardworking until he wants to tease Misa or one of the other characters, and I think in the first route again. Though he generally goes back to like no shit's taken when Minami is around. And it's like, holy shit, where's this guy back, right? Maybe some more scenes with this guy, but it's more conflicting than Minami, where Seiya is probably better when he's goofing around, where Minami is like, no, stop goofing around, be more serious, because that's what works better for you. Seiya is probably the second character after Hibiki that has a decent amount of connections throughout the routes. at least in a more personal level. He's still another spirit, but he never passed on because he doesn't think he deserves it and rather tries to help others and manages a lot of shit. He's also the only one that helped Hibiki and gave him the mirror world that I talked about before. I'm not sure if that's a spoiler. I'm pretty sure it gets brought up in the comment route of that section. He's important in every section except the next one, but just as like a supporting role. I forgot if he's in Sena's route, but Seiya either gives the main cast like specific items to progress the plot or provides like necessary info. Sometimes it's what Misa should be doing, sometimes like an exposition of what's happening and stuff like that, right? Part of Seiya's route suffers with the retracting old plot points from other routes, with like Misa's issues trying to figure out what she wants to do with her life, and it's not like a specific issue with this route alone, it depends on your order. So whatever route you had as a third one, it's like holy shit, this again. It just gets really tiring. In the end, I thought I'd get another Yang from Minami and I didn't. A good portion of Minami's route is kind of whatever, not bad, but not what I expected. When Minami has other characters to bounce off of, he's actually really fun, he's funny. Overall, he's more seen as one of the antagonists in the background. He has the inner conflict between wanting to spend time with Misa or take her soul. He knows it's an issue and there's like a time thing, but he can't stop himself. I think he's also the only one that has like a third CG and his bad ending. Everybody else like has like a common bad ending. It's like, oh, the spirit came in, or the mom and she's freaking out because like the mental shit. And this one's like, no, you're fucked. And it was cool. The last section is called Spirit World. Misa's not spirited away at all. She just gets into contact with different spirits. Yukimaru becomes her guardian spirit until she becomes happy. Koharu haunts her because she messed up in this Ouija board thing. This section's straight up goofy. I don't know what happened, but I originally blamed it on the writers, or rather that there must have been some kind of lost communication between the teams and this section just ended up happening. Apparently the director wasn't all of them. It makes sense that Misa's so consistent between them now because of that, but now I don't know what the idea was for this section at all. It's like, why is this here? Like if you hear the OP, you'd never think this would be part of the routes for 9-Rip. Even Sena and Koyo, which I mentioned before, feel like they're part of 9-Rip, just like the least worth it. These two are like, what is this shit about? And I liked it, but this works a lot better as a separate entity. The final route is also in this section after you finish the other two routes and possibly a couple other ones before. I'm not sure you have to finish them all or not. That one is called Toka, and it's the one that keeps spiriting her away in different scenarios. He's the Tengu that gives the support by giving them like hardships and obstacles to overcome. Some old school tough love over here, right? It's fine. I found it interesting. There's a reason why he's hard on her, but that's on spoilers. He's infatuated with her due to her like sunny personality and thinking everything must have a reason. Basically, he was getting tired of everybody's shit, complaining like, oh, why is everything happening to me? And he's like, what the fuck? I'm trying to help you with things so you can improve and you're just bitching. But Misa was different, and it's like, oh, it's the same personality that Kureha had, where it's like, oh, she's open-minded, she understands a little bit even though she doesn't get it. And anyways, all of these guys are goofy and it was funny, just not something you expect from the title. Yukimaru is like a trial basis where he needs to make her happy to become like a guardian spirit officially, but then he just wants to watch anime and eat, and he just keeps watching stupid like dog anime. He's the himbo of the group when Sena was already there. There's levels of himbos over here. Koharu is kind of like the hard ass, but he's one of those soon hidden softy type of characters. How he gets introduced and where the route goes to is also pretty funny, where Misa just fucks up like another time and they get stuck together. Like this happens twice. Holy, Misa's kind of retarded. The section was more of like a different approach of the rest, where it just demonstrates that Misa could handle her issues without getting spirited away. She just needed like a support group. There's more to it to the locked route, but it's so small that's basically like a shoestring tying up all these routes together. It's like, okay. So I talked about some of the character themes before and how some don't fit the tone at all. And outside of these, the rest is actually great, but a lot of them get handled in the first section, the school ghost stories, right? The art is great, but also doing those down halfway through the routes, where it's more about the relationship type of CGs instead of like the cool shit happening. You see the cover and you think like, oh, a lot of cool shit's gonna happen, but it doesn't really show it in CGs like halfway through. But the first half's great, but then it's just it's like, all right, oh, love, oh, progression of a relationship. Like, I don't, cool shit, show me cool shit. Each section has their own ending theme. The OP and the other one for the other realm and the school ghost stories are all Pluto. These tracks are amazing. The one for Urban Legends is fine. It's kind of a step down, but I can still say, oh, this could be 9-Rip, this is fine. The Spirit World one is just a whole tonal shift, and yeah, it's just like, what the fuck is this? But it's like, at the same time, it makes sense when the routes feel like it came like from a different title with how they handled that tone. So the ending song makes sense for that. It's just not 9-Rip. You'd think the finale could have been a different like ending theme, but doesn't at all. It's like, oh, it's the same one from the Spirit World. It's like, all right, yeah, it makes sense in terms of like, hey, it's still part of the same section, but it should have been different if it's a locked one. So in terms of route order, there's a couple ways to go about it. There's two endings per character where the conditions dependent on if you max out their affection meter or not. If you want to do it all, then you can do it whatever order outside of like having Spirit World being in the last one. It's fucking goofy, but the last route is introduced there as well. It's like, it has to be last. And basically, it's just not a great route to start with, right? Technically, the order I put them through here is probably the best order. Both of these kind of lead to Other Realm, fine enough, but it's probably better from Urban Legends. If you only want to do one route, then do Kureha with Max Affection. It's the only route where how they present the ending is different from the rest. You don't even get an ending song or like a new special like video for it. You just get the main menu theme and the black screen credits, and that's it. I don't know why it's the only one that looks like this, but it was the best one. It's like, holy shit, this presentation's amazing. Otherwise, start with School Ghost Stories. If you eventually like Hibiki, then finish that common route, and then skip to Spirit World with Koharu, and then technically you can do Seiya from the Other Realm since there's a bit of connection with Hibiki and him. Technically, you can do Seiya from the Other Realm since there's a bit of like Hibiki in him as well. And if you really want to, you can also do like Sena's route because there's some Hibiki in there as well, but you can skip like that portion. So after all that, you can actually go through Hibiki's route and do that one. And if you're like, hey, let me look through Kureha, it's like, hey, you can do the uncapped one, the uncapped affection. It's like, it'll be fine. So if you can tell, I really liked the School Ghost Stories. It really felt like it had the most time put into it. All the other routes, if you don't care, you can skip them. Honestly, it's one of those things that, like, I really just would read Kureha and that's it. Overall, this could have been 4 different titles where they'd all be considered what ifs and have like a locked route as like the last one. It's interesting, but the cohesion is fucking lacking. It has a lot of repetition with Misa's issues. It gets exacerbated when her problems are this trivial. Did she really have to get spirited away to hell just because her ass was so shit at conversing with her mom and that she didn't want to be a doctor? It's like, holy shit. I'd be annoyed as a parent too. What do you mean you don't want to be a doctor when the school was planned for that kind of shit? Why didn't you see anything earlier? I get you'd be scared about it and I'd be angry, but it's kind of late for that. Or, okay, what do you actually want to do? Okay, fine. What do you actually want to do? Oh, you don't know yet? Holy shit, are you fucking stupid? And the plot itself is understandable and why she feels this way that she does. Like, all right, fine. Just why did you decide to go against this so fucking late? Anyways, Seiya is my favorite character, but School Ghost Stories was the best section out of the bunch in terms of plot and like art direction. Some of the parts that were meant to be kind of scary, jump scare shit, right, ended up making me laugh instead because at least they tried. It's just funny. I think it needed a different cover or like a package to illustrate what it was going to be about better. Only one shows that it could have been potentially different paths. The rest looks like it's all in one world and it's not. I'm giving this a 7. There are times where I felt like this was a 6 or like, holy, this kind of ass. And there's moments like, holy shit, it spikes so much and it's a 9. So I won't be going through a lot in the spoilers. Hibiki had a connection with Seiya and Koharu. Technically speaking, he also had a weak thread with Sena. Like I said before, Seiya provided him the mirror world, and Koharu was technically his first friend. He's kind of a loser. Not Koharu. Hibiki, he's a piss baby, right? There's a lot going on with the last one, but it's not important for here. It just leads to one of Koharu's regrets, and it gets resolved in his route. Hibiki ends up being the antagonist in Sena's route, and the two just have to run away from Hibiki in the later half of it's funny. It's the only character that actually does this. The rest of the time, they either show up and to like fill up their role or have like some connecting dots between the routes, but otherwise they don't show up all that much. For some reason, Hibiki's like, let's make this guy the villain for this one. I was like, all right. I mentioned before that Minami is usually the antagonist, but that's more of an indirect thing. He wants Misa's soul since she was like a kid because her soul is one of those like once in a millennia level of purity type of things. He needs it to kick out the soul he already has because that one started fucking around and being an asshole to him. Think of it like the Kaio Shin that's inside Boo in DBZ, except it's like the reverse where the pure soul he had, it ended up being corrupted and he's just being an asshole and just like blackmailing Minami. Now it's funny, but it's like, holy shit. Then for the locked character Toka, he's providing all these obstacles towards Misa. He's also protecting her from Minami at the same time. He went completely nuclear with the hell sections. Like, okay, so you've been protecting her for like 10 years against this stupid demon and now you sent her there. I was like, all right, genius. And this was due to her being like close to her time limit. Apparently she was meant to die early on, but he saved her from death itself and made a deal. It's like, hey, she'll be really strong and be strong enough to deal with anything when she gets older. It's based on her soul and shit would hit the fan if like something gets a hold of her soul at the time. If she was like 2 weeks, like, or I'll train her, and that's what it's about. So there's a reason why he pays extra attention to her outside of his own feelings. There's a link between Death and Toka or Misa, I don't know. I couldn't figure it out. I don't know if that gets addressed in the sequel or not as well. I think it's coming out soon. They do something in the route itself, but it doesn't get put into text. It's just like, it's one of those things that happens before and it's annoying. Where it's like, oh, there's an audio thing. And he's like whispering it, but the text shows not. It's just like, oh, it's ellipsis. Like, great, I don't understand. And in the end, in the routes where she figures out what she wants to be, it's always a pastry chef. It's based on her nostalgia eating something with her family when her dad was alive. I get it. It makes sense. It just, at the same time, it's like, no matter what the character or what help you get or what scenario you are, you choose pastry chef. When you're like put into the path of doctor and you're like, pastry chef. It's like, oh, okay. And that's it. I wasn't sure if I was going to write about this one or Red Bell's Lament first, but I think I got more out of like 9-Rip. I think I have like 4 other Tomeis I already have something written for, or even made the audio for. I just don't have time. Well, I have time. I'm just lazy, and I didn't edit the audio yet. I might make like a cycle where it's like, hey, I put one title and then one Otome title later on, it will work. I have plans for like a couple of like other down the memory lane type of stuff, but that's also gets pushed down. It's like, I think I have like 10 things in the backlog. But yeah, that's about it.